I just watched A Simple Favor for the third time, and boy, do I have some thoughts. So, A Simple Favor is a movie starring Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, and then that one guy from Crazy Rich Asians who everybody thought was really hot and British. And then in this movie, he's also really hot and British, but this time not so much emphasis on the Asian part. The movie is honestly not too bad. I think it's actually really good, and it is something that I wish I saw more often. If you guys have ever seen Heathers, you're definitely prepared to watch this movie, because a lot of the movie I think has like the same kind of vibe. It's definitely like a very black comedy type of, you know, air about it, which makes it really super entertaining, because I really liked Heathers and I really liked this movie, and I can tell you why. So let's hit the reset button with a really quick review of focus. So let's hit the reset button with a quick review of A Simple Favor. It is Christmas Eve. I am drinking some snickerdoodle flavored coffee. I have my Lush cup of coffee face mask on. I am waiting for Santa to plummet down my chimney and make himself known. And then I'm gonna open a bunch of presents tomorrow, but my present tonight was getting to watch this movie. So the movie opens up with a really like catchy, I almost want to say like, I don't know where this intro comes from. Like, I know this intro is inspired by something. It reminds me a lot of like the original Teen Titans intro, which was so entertaining. And then they play like super catchy, like kind of 70s punky, poppy, French music. I think it's 70s. I think that's why it reminds me, I was gonna say also it reminds me a little bit of James Bond intros, but like not quite. But yeah, so it opens with this intro, like super catchy, shows, I guess, screen grabs from the movie, like very selective ones. And then you jump right into one of Stephanie, Anna Kendrick's character's vlogs, where you kind of get the establishing shot of Stephanie's character. Stephanie's character is stereotypical white mom. Doesn't eat gluten, doesn't want her kid to run in the house, single mom, wears an apron. Hey moms, Stephanie here. Like, just very, I don't know, it's just cliche mom, which I think is freaking hilarious, because I've always liked those, like, jokes, those memes on Facebook. They're like, can I speak to your manager, please? Or, oh, I love zucchini. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. So we get the establishing shot of Stephanie's character, and we find out that she has this vlog, which isn't on YouTube. It's like on its own website, which I didn't even know people still did. I think that's the one thing that bothers me about this movie, is it's obviously supposed to be modern day. Like, these people live an hour and a half outside New York City, but like, there's still like a live vlog on another website. Like, that to me feels very, I don't know, it feels a little outdated. But then again, like, if you're trying to establish Stephanie's, well, no, I guess I still don't understand. So I think the one thing that I just didn't get was the fact that Stephanie's vlog is on another website. Like, why not YouTube? Could you not get the rights for YouTube? I mean, you could afford Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. Why couldn't you afford, like, real YouTube? What's the problem? So anyway, we get a couple important pieces of information. As I said before, we established Stephanie's character and kind of how she is. We established the fact that Emily is missing. And we also get the fact that Emily has a son. And then we kind of jump into, like, the story. So the way they frame it, I think, is super clever. They kind of do like a flashback sort of esque, like the whole beginning of the movie is, I guess, framed to be sort of like Stephanie's flashback to like the events before the vlog that the movie opens with. And we meet like Miles, which is Stephanie's son, and we kind of start in this classroom. And the classroom is a great scene. There's a lot of fun stuff happening in the classroom. One of the fun things is like these three moms. There's a gay guy, I think she's Pakistani, I could be wrong, and then like another white mom, which I just have to say, I love this. I think the diversification of like the mothers in the story is wonderful. I think that, you know, just the whole opening shot is great. Like, I like the idea that they have these three very like obvious, you know, out of the box moms that are like new age mothers, that are very casual, very fun, like moms, and they're just kind of like laughing at Stephanie because Stephanie's a little, I don't want to say uptight, but she's definitely a little bit like wound up, very like, oh honey, you know that you can't eat that because it's got gluten in it, or oh sweetie, you know we only eat organic, freeze-dried, pasture-grown, free-range strawberries in this house. Like, it's really weird, and I like that they're laughing at her. I like that these moms are like, you know, kind of like I almost want to say they're like the three girls from Beauty and the Beast, like the original Beauty and the Beast, like the blonde ones that were all about Gaston. They're kind of like that, but instead of being all about Gaston, they're just constantly nitpicking Gaston. So we get that shot. We get one really slightly racist joke, like it's a visual gag, and then we get, you know, kind of the establishing idea that Emily isn't usually a part of these like parental kind of events that go on within the school. But then we see Emily as Stephanie is leaving the school with Nikki, Emily's son, and Miles, her son. We see Emily getting out of a car in this really awesome establishing shot where Emily's got an umbrella and she's in like this suit and her heels are really nice and it's raining and she's got her hat down and like this umbrella blows across the parking lot like a tumbleweed, and then Emily comes up and talks about her labia tearing in childbirth. So fun. So the movie continues, and I think that this next part, so the next scene is supposed to be like Stephanie and Emily going to Emily's house, and like they're kind of like supposed to establish Emily's character and like establish the juxtaposition between her and Stephanie and show that they're like unlikely friends. But like, to me, the scene is really slow because at some point it's like exposition that's unnecessary. In the beginning of the scene, it's really nice to see two very opposing characters trying to interact with one another, and it's a lot of fun, honestly, to like see Stephanie try and be super polite and cordial and like make small talk, and like Emily is just not having it. Like, she is this sort of boisterous, crass, but very high fashion. Like, I think you can see the juxtaposition in her character on her body. She always dresses in like these super high fashion clothes, but her hair is always messy. She's always wearing makeup and like wearing these wonderful like high heels and like, you know, expressing these hyper feminine qualities on the face and on the shoes, but like she's always wearing suits. There's only one time that she wears a dress, and it is at the end of the movie when she is it's like a callback to one of these scenes. So in this part where I was like, oh, it's just like this. Okay, hang on. So there's back to what I said when I said that there was like this point in the scene where exposition gets a little not good. Oh no. Hang on. So there's a scene after this scene that kind of, they're back in Emily's kitchen and they're drinking more martinis, and Stephanie says like, every time we do this, you know, I always imagine those scenes in the movies when so-and-so would bring the husband a martini every time he came home, and every time we do this I feel so high-toned. And there's a callback to that later in the movie. The only time that Emily ever wears a dress is at the end of the movie. Nick is coming home, and Emily descends the stairs and she's wearing like this 50s sort of modified dress with like a pink petticoat, and like she's got her hair curled and pinned, and she's got a martini for him. Like, I thought that was super clever. But I think that that's one thing that I wish I saw more in the movie, were these clever visual gags. Can we focus? Hello? Camera? Hello? Focus on me. Focus on me. Thank you. That's one thing I wish we saw more in the movie, were these like clever visual statements. We got a lot of clever dialogue and a lot of snippy dialogue, which is fine, but at some point in the movie, I get a little tired of that. The movie has a couple really good visual gags. The first visual gag in the beginning, I said was slightly racist. The visual joke when Emily is walking in the rain, when they introduce her character and the umbrella blows by like a tumbleweed. There is a visual, not joke, but like a visual callback. There's a scene where Emily is wearing red gloves, and then there's another scene where Stephanie is wearing Emily's red gloves. And then there's the visual callback to what Stephanie says about like bringing the husband martinis. And I think those were really nice, and maybe I'm missing a couple, but if I'm missing it, then I feel like it wasn't obvious enough. I feel like it, I don't want things in movies to be super obvious, but like I want them to be obvious enough that the viewer can point that out and be like, that was cool. You know what I mean? I feel like they shouldn't have to be spoon-fed to me, but I also feel like they shouldn't be so subtle that I have to watch the movie 4 or 5 times in order to get it. Because this is the 3rd time I've ever seen the movie, but I digress. So we establish that Emily has a husband, that her husband is a professor at a college, that he wrote a book once, that they're a little broke, and then we get some nonsense that honestly is so forgettable, I don't even care. They hang out, and then we get like the trade confession scene. So we get like this little thing about Emily's husband's Nick. We get a little thing about like Nick's TA and Emily and Nick having like a threesome, which later on Nick says is a lie, but then like his TA is always flirting with him, and like I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there was so much in like stuff, like I feel like either have the TA flirt with him and have them have had a threesome, or not, or like have the TA and him be having an affair or something. Just don't give me like pieces of information that could be something, but then like not go anywhere. I understand that it probably wasn't necessary to the story, but if it wasn't necessary to the story to begin with, then don't put it in the movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't necessary, don't put it in the movie. That's all. And then we find out that at some point, Stephanie, her father died, and she found out she had a half-brother, and then she had sex with her half-brother. And that kind of just becomes a running joke. But not really. It's apparently important to the plot, but then it's not. It's not important to the plot at all. But it is important to Stephanie's character building, which I do appreciate, because I don't like it when main characters are like these semi-perfect, but like, I have a dark side. But then they're like, their dark side is like super generic. It's like, one time my father killed my mother, and then I killed my father because he killed my mother. Or like, one time I drank and I hit another guy in my car and I killed that guy. Or, one time I argued with my husband and I feel like it's my fault that my husband's dead. And we do get kind of like some semblance of the latter scenario that I just explained, but it's more like she had sex with her brother, she's continued to have sex with her brother, her husband finds out Miles is not Stephanie's husband's son, and anyway, they're both dead. Delicious. So, I'm gonna set that over here. Ooh, I'm so gross looking right now. So we get a little bit more exposition, and then this simple favor happens. Emily asks Stephanie to keep an eye on Nikki because she has to go put out a fire at work, and she'll get him, and thank you, Stephanie, and you're a good person. And then Emily never comes back. 2 days later, Emily calls Sean, who's in London. Did I say Nick? Was Sean's name? No. His name is Sean. Sorry, his name's not Nick. What am I doing with my life? What am I doing with myself? I don't even know where I'm at right now. So she calls Sean, who's in London. He comes home. He gets Nikki, who is the child. They call the police because Emily is missing. And then we get some exposition about how nobody really knows who Emily is. And I didn't even really know who Emily was because my wife is a beautiful ghost. And oh my god, Sean, you're such a good writer. Do you want to stay over? The cabs aren't running. Yeah, I'll stay over, and let me make you a hangover smoothie in the morning because it'll give the kids their full thing of vegetables. And oh my god, that's so clever. I'm gonna make a vlog about it. Anyway, Stephanie goes to investigate at Emily's place of work, and she finds the only photo that we know of that exists of Emily in the movie. And at the bottom in Sharpie, it says, "You gotta have faith." Yeah. To be honest, this next part of the movie, I feel like could have been almost completely erased. And not to say that I didn't think it was good, but I felt like it was a lot of plot that, I don't know. Felt like it was a lot of plot, but I just don't think it was I almost don't think this like next chunk was necessary, or it could have been rewritten. Basically what happens is Stephanie takes this photo and makes copies of it and spreads them all over town to like let people know like, hey, keep an eye out for me. A cop comes in who I think is the most irritating character, and I know that was the point, was to make him so unbelievably infuriating and frustrating, but I couldn't handle it. Every time he comes on the screen, I just want to punch him. I just want to punch him. I just want to punch him. His whole purpose in the movie is to be as not helpful as possible. His whole purpose in the movie is to be as terrible and irritating as you can get, and I just don't even know how to handle it. He's so bad. He is so bad. I'm so mad right now because I hate his character so much. So this cop character comes in and is like, look, there's a plane ticket, and she rented a white Kia in cash, and blah, 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 blah. They find out she's dead in a lake. But it's really not her. It's actually her twin sister. Yeah, I just skipped over a whole chunk of plot. Why? Because it doesn't matter. It's actually her twin sister. As it turns out, Emily has a twin sister who does a lot of heroin. Something about a $4 million life insurance policy. It's at this point in the movie that, like, I got a little, like, exhausted. Like, I felt like I was being loaded with so much information that didn't really go anywhere for a long time. Granted, I will say, everything that I'm about to mention had a purpose. The $4 million life insurance policy, the fact that Emily had a twin sister who did a lot of heroin, the fact that she didn't like her photos being taken, and her disappearance. They all had a purpose, and it all came together at the end of the movie. But actually no, it didn't all come together at the end of the movie. Each little plot point kind of solved itself before the end of the movie, if that makes sense. I felt like the story took like a lot of pieces of information and then decided to solve it one at a time, which is fine, but it was a lot of pieces of information. And the one thing that I wanted to know was, how on earth are we going to fix all this? Because you as a viewer find out fairly quickly before the ending of the movie that Emily's alive, and she's not dead, and you can't quite figure out how she's alive because at that point you understood that she was in, like, that was her body that they found in the lake. Like, you didn't quite know that she had a twin yet, but you knew that she was alive, and you wanted to know, like, how are they gonna figure that out? But then you're finding out, oh, she's got a twin, and there's a $4 million life insurance policy, and how is that money gonna clear? And, well, where's her twin? And what the heck is going on with her parents? And where are the kids? Like, where are the kids the entire time in this movie? And what's the husband's part in this? Is the husband the bad guy? Is the husband not the bad guy? Who's right? Who's wrong? And maybe that was the point. Maybe I'm just not getting that. Maybe that was the point, was to make you feel just as confused as Stephanie was, because you have to understand that this movie is essentially taking place through Stephanie's point of view. But I feel like that could have been neater. It could have been a little bit more neatly done. It could have been a little bit more concise. And I think that was the one thing I was waiting for. I liked the ending of the movie, mostly because the mom, the gay guy, pulls up in his Prius and smacks Blake Lively with his Prius, and then gets out of his car and goes, "America's hybrids, silent but deadly." I really liked that. I thought that was freaking hilarious. And essentially everybody gets a happy ending, which is honestly great. But yeah, I guess that was my messy review of A Simple Favor. I'm not a movie critic, but I thought it was a great movie. It was a lot of fun to me. Granted, there were a couple scenes in there that I felt were, like, just so chock full of exposition that I was like, it wasn't going anywhere. I wish the movie would have been a little bit neater in its plot points. But overall, it's like an 8 out of 10 for me. I just had a lot of fun watching the movie. I really do think that was the point. Like I said before, if you liked Heathers, you're really gonna like A Simple Favor. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Maybe I'll be back with a new one. Who knows? If you want, leave a subscribe. And if you don't care, neither do I. Alright. Thank you.